multi-billion-dollar city, are we? And we don't have to ask. I pay 23% of my health insurance. We don't have to ask that, but a small contribution, why not? Maybe that helps us out, improve the wages. I don't know. It's what, 16,000 or more for a year for an employee?
Yeah.
Something like that, 10% spread over 12 months.
But you use the idea of grandfather.
Oh, yeah, that was a great solution because, we didn't think about that to begin with. It was just, we're gonna do it with everybody.
So the idea is just the percentage,
A percentage of the new one,
the new one.
And
So
if I could give everybody free healthcare and do that and we could, great, but in reality, are we gonna be able to?
And I would like to see, like you're saying, what are the numbers? I get, but maybe we're low, but we do provide free healthcare. So that does offset that a little bit. I would like to know how we do compare to similar sized towns exactly in that amount. And then what do they offer? So I have a hard time, I like the idea of doing that if we're comparable in our wages. But
John,
I need to associate myself with your comments here, Dick. And the reason I do that is several years ago, I was at a meeting with a number of utility board members from around the state of Iowa. And the comment was made that at that time, and this is probably 10 years ago, at that time, the average age of a journeyman lineman was 58 years old. Guys like this aren't gonna be around much longer. And the people that you get to replace them, you're gonna need to pay a higher wage. And just something to think about, but that opened my eyes to what's happening here.
there should be a website out there that you hit a button, it should show every town and the wages instead of calling Redfield, calling Dexter, whatever. Daniel?
I guess the only thing I would say is, you talk about a website, actually you can get on the Department of Management. You can look on there. I actually looked at it a little bit ago. So, the city in the last, I think the earliest I could see was 2009 until current. The revenue has doubled, went from somewhere like 6.4 to now 13.7 million. That's just the number I pulled up a little bit ago. Despite that, what happens though is across the board, I think, regardless of department, a lot of times we see us plateau, even though the city revenue continues to go up. We're going to continue to see that as, people are flooding in. How many times, we put up these houses and they're gone before they're even built. They're already, people just keep coming in. So, Mike, I guess to your, kind of to your point here, you want to see, maybe what those numbers break down to be, but we don't compare to people around us. I get it. It might not be your job to go out and look. There's Earlham officers. I can just speak because I know obviously the police side of things. An Earlham officer starting out brand new right now is making thousands of dollars more than, say, our lowest guy, which would be Shane Martinson and I, and we've been here coming up on close to 5 years now. We're bigger, we're growing, where they're plateaued, we're still growing. So I get, you have a responsibility to look at this from a bigger picture. I don't think, honestly, you're gonna have to worry too much about those numbers across the board, really, because I think you're gonna start losing employees so bad if you start looking at things like this. We can't even get employees now. So you start, you give these 4% cost of living raises, and that's great, but when you look at it, the cost of everything, the amount of that everything else going up, you give us 4%, that kind of puts a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And then you say, well, we gave you 4%, but now we want you to pay 20% of your insurance. If you guys look at that anything other than a pay decrease, I think you're looking at that wrong. We're already fighting towns all around us in our immediate area that are already paying more without that pay decrease, so just something to think about.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Okay, so the idea,
Jim?
oh, go ahead.
Jim, go ahead. Our senior advisor here.
Yeah.
Long time employee.
Just food for thought, when you start looking at comparisons from one town to the next, we are kind of a unique situation here because our public works and our wastewater are a combined department. So in theory, you would be paying a wastewater superintendent, a fixed salary, averages probably about 75 or 80,000 a year. You'd also be paying a public works director that same salary. So we are a different situation here. So when you compare wages, you kind of have to compare job duties as well. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Because ours are combined. And that may be part of the reason that we're having difficulty finding somebody to fill that void.
Maybe we need to split that up when we look at it.
Well, yeah, no, I will add to
So-
Jim
Yes,
because
thanks.
Jim and I are having the seniority now, He's been here, 28 years or something, going on 31. So, yeah, it will be after Jim and myself leave. You will have a hard time finding people wearing so many hats. Jim hold 7-6 hat, he wears 7-6 hat, I do the same. We're not complaining because we're at the end of the road, we got used to it, we're good with it. But yes, down in the future, down the road, it will be hard when you get somebody telling, hey, you're a city administrator, city clerk, financial advisor, I have 7 hats, I forgot what it is. Secretary of Utility Board, treasurer, city treasurer, utility treasurer. We're good, we're old fashioned, but the new generation will be changed. Each one will come here till I hold one position. So that's why you see this, I personally trying to go that direction, of trying to improve things slowly but steady. So the next one comes here to replace me, you won't be surprised that it's gonna take out, I'm not gonna wear 8 hats, that was in our era. So we are trying slowly and steady to go toward that. It's not gonna happen overnight. It will never be happening overnight, but it will happen when you continue doing the development like the police officer referred to. You would see, I just spoke to the mayor today when he gave me the history of the last 10 years of revenue that he got from the check. And I showed him that we were at 1.1 million since 2013. So we're staying steady, but we're improving the service that we have. Now I'm not gonna take you into any more than health insurance. Let's go back to the health insurance. Now, I understand, that's hard decision. I think the utility board, you guys were there and you know what I'm talking about. You're just trying to see what the council wanted to say about it. I want the employees that here tonight to know that the grandfather, the county, talking about the utility, city didn't do anything yet. The grandfather, the current employee, so you won't be going with any percentage and all this stuff. As a current employee, you're talking about the new one. The problem that the mayor is trying to refer to is we're having a hard time getting new employees. So this is really became an obstacle to tell them, you know what, no, we're gonna have you pay. I can see this point, So this is really where we need maybe to sit with the utility and talk about it more, is that health insurance thing, because it's really a dilemma. I can see it happen in the future when you have new employees until they know you're gonna pay 80-20 or something like that. It's a good idea, yes. Is it something that we can? Yes. But is it gonna help us with the new hire? And this is where,
It's gonna depend on your pay.
yeah,
We all know that, it's gonna depend on the pay.
And I can see that too,
You know, I mean,
yeah, it can be more,
you know,
it can be more. But,
I know all about having a pay decrease when
That makes
when my health insurance went up and my raise was 3% or 1%. So I know all about that, it's just when we gotta take a look at it, And if there's some sort of a contribution, then maybe that pay can go up, to help out. I don't know what the numbers would be off the top of my head. I'm not
yes,
gonna
yes,
guess you
and
that.
I.
But that's a possibility,
Yes.
to maybe say, well, just don't discuss it at all, that's.
No, actually, we are.
No, I know, but.
Mason, you got something?
All I gotta say is if you're looking for jobs and you see an ad that says fully paid insurance and you see what the price is an hour or salary and you see fully paid insurance, that pushes you pretty far from what you're making an hour. And from Jim's example, he's underpaid way too bad because
He is.
you can go anywhere in the 30-mile radius and all of the jobs that we do is 2 to 3 times more. Because I talk to the public works stuff, Perry, on a daily basis about asking questions on what we could do to improve our stuff. And his job of just a director, which Jim is, he sits in his office all day long, and then he has a manager of all of his public works employees, and he still makes $120,000 a year. That's not including anything with sewer or all Jack has is a CDL.
Lisa, did you have something?
Sure. When you're talking about savings, with the potential new employees, what's your plan with that savings? What would your plan to use that money?
For wages, I think I just.
So
Said that.
it would go like my department, I'm going to get a full-time employee if my board approves and, we're gonna need some more money. So then you guys would be trickling down some more money to my department? To every department?
I mean,
You don't know?
well, it's possible. I mean, we can't take a vote on that right now and say, yeah, but yeah, I mean, we gotta look at it at least, right? We're talking about it. So we all know that we need to probably up some wages. Yes, no, I don't hear
Yes.
things. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, you can't
So-
decide with me just standing here.
But-
I fully
Yeah,
understand
but
that.
I mean, yeah. Like I said, I hate to use me as an example all the time and not hear from anybody else, but I pay 23% of my health insurance. That's $6,000 a year. Do they up my wage because I pay 23%?
I do have a question. Do you have HR at your company?
Of course.
Do you have HR at your company? Anybody else have HR? Okay.
How big is that company?
And I did have a question about the HR. Is it going to be a proactive endeavor or would it be reactive? Like we always have to have a problem or there will be,
That's what we're trying to find out.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so my thought is 2 things. One, Mike said, we don't really
So
know.
big on Mike tonight.
Well, no, you mentioned directly, we don't know, how this compares and all this other stuff. Well, I feel fairly confident speaking for myself and then the rest of the departments that over the last year and every year, at some point, we are up here saying, okay, well, these places are making this much and these places are making this much. So maybe we don't have everything in one document that says, okay, this is where the rescue's at, this is where the police are at, whatever, but you've heard it all over the year, every department, Jim talked about his earlier, so I think that the information is there, even if it's not maybe coalesced into one thing. But the second, I guess, thing I had was, you said for your job, you get paid whatever it is per hour and you pay 23% on your health insurance. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking, and this is still my job, they were talking about how flight paramedics, for example, make less than, say, some EMTs working overnights, right? Flight paramedics do way more. Their job requires more certifications. They do a lot of stuff, right? But that's because when you say, hey, I've got a flight position open, 20 people apply, 50 people apply. You know, if your position, if you leave and they go to fill your position, how many people apply to work at your position? Could be a dozen, could be 100, right? I don't know, but the problem we're having is that needs to be addressed is that nobody is applying, you know, so then that's why you have to pay somebody overnight as an EMT doing less work, whatever, $40 an hour versus 20 for a flight paramedic that, you know, runs more calls and has a higher, you know, whatever. And so that I think is important in this. If we can't even get people in here, it doesn't, you know what I mean? That's, okay, sure, you could make more somewhere else, but, you know, we'll have to, that I think is important.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, so we're back.
I think we're looking at all that stuff, right? You know, we're not.
Should we talk, we can, yes, not, well, let's take. Yeah. Okay.
And then Daniel, what did you say that website was that you could see all the wages?
You can go on and look at the Department of Management.
Department of Management. Thank you. Okay, 14, condemnation process, 420 North Sherman. I need a motion to authorize the attorney to file a court action to allow the city to abate the nuisance at 420 North Sherman and to bill the property owner for the cost associated with this abatement. And after we get that, then we'll have to move forward with the process. I had the bid, you know, a while back.
Is that Ryan? Is that the Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll move that.
Okay. Moved by Cobba,
I'll second.
second by Patrick, Patrick,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Stoller,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cobba.
Yes.
Okay, next one, garbage collection, pass, that's at South Summit. I want everybody to look at that.
That's the, apartments, right?
32 apartments. And I've been fighting this situation for years and years. AV has, I believe, 5 dumpsters out there. And the citizens pay, just like everybody, $14.25. 32 is $456. Well, that picture, they couches, refrigerators, microwaves, stoves, everything, that's next to the building. They're putting all the stuff inside these dumpsters that isn't household use. Laugh, plaster, everything else. Well, Scott Avey said he thinks it'd take at least $1,000 a month to recoup our total cost of what we're having. I mean, we've emailed her, we've sent pictures and everything else. The problem is she has a dummy camera there, no legitimate camera, and I can't say that Corey doesn't dump a couch out there. Is it coming from all the residents? Which it probably is, but anybody could, but that's her problem if she won't put a camera. She said there's not electric to that building. Well, I've got a Wi-Fi trail camera at my place, brings up, but I don't know if we can possibly make them, tell her we're gonna have to start charging. Because we're eating the cost.
Sometimes doing that encourages them to remedy the situation.
Yeah,
And how would we expect him to pick that up without having extra?
well, unless she charges, one unit might be fine, the other isn't, but I mean, there's,
Maybe they
there's
police
trash
themselves.
along the apartments, everything else, but every time I drive out there, the dumpsters are chock full, and it isn't just residential garbage.
Maybe they start policing themselves. Say, hey, you're making me pay more because of this.
Yeah, that could be, I mean, she's an on-site manager, so I like the council to approve $1,000 more a month, and then if she bucks it, she can come to council. She was invited to come here, but didn't show up. Because, what is it, $90 a ton, I think, for a Adair County landfill. And we're eating all that cost, and all around town, if somebody has a couch, a chair, Avey doesn't pick it up, but then Sarah we'll send a notice to them, say, we got a sticker program, then a lot of them will put stickers on there and that covers the cost of the tonnage.
Will Scott pick that up?
Yeah, he has been picking a lot up, but we're eating the cost of it.
Oh,
But they, like I say, 5 dumpsters out there and it's just chock full. Unless you want to table this and say that Myra has to come to our meeting.
Jake, how often does he go out there and pick those dumpsters up?
Once a week.
Once a week?
Why isn't she required to pay for her own garbage and then she distributes a fee, like places in Des Moines and stuff, they have to pay their own, the complex pays the garbage. And then they distribute, let's say it's $2,000 a month, then they divvy it up between all of their tenants.
I mean, I guess we could tell her she's gotta come to our next meeting, but until then, we're paying the cost. And if she don't show up, then I'd advise to add $1,000 a month on that.
And she's clearly aware of,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
our
I
city
see.
cleanup day and the
Yeah.
sticker.
I mean, I
You table it and invite her to the next month.
So each resident pays the garbage
14,
separately?
25,
They pay separately, right?
just on your electric bill.
Oh, okay.
On your electric
Okay,
bill,
okay.
that makes $456 a month, but that doesn't even come close to paying the amount of tonnage they have out there.
Okay, we'll table it and invite her to the next meeting to discuss the issue. Okay,
Public forum,
that's
yes.
A short statement. And yes, it's good, somebody read it and made sure, so. And before I start, I don't expect like questions to be answered, it's just a general statement to be read. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council of Stuart. As you may know, I'm Christina Renslow. While I may not have been born and raised in Stuart or even attended our schools, I have lived here for nearly 20 years. While in my 20 years, I have not always been familiar with what have had occurred or taken place in the first 7 years of living in this town. But I can tell you in the last 13 years, I have learned the love that the citizens and some of now outside citizens pour into this town. I have watched over the last 13 years this town bloom into a beautiful place. I have watched so many people pour so much energy and volunteer time that it just keeps getting better and better. I have seen the endless time and support that Jim Henderson gives to this town, whether it be streets, sewer, running the rescue as a driver, or just giving over 35 years to the fire department. I've watched my late father-in-law and now my husband give countless hours to our fire department so that we have the best department around. So much that they have taught my son the pride of being part of something so special that when he turned 16, he wanted to join. I have witnessed the countless hours that Bob Cook has put into Facebook to remind us of what our town was and still is, and all the history that we can learn. It's an inspiration to all. I have witnessed council members who give years and years of time to make our city a better place. There are so many things about this town and its citizens that we could go on for days. So much that 6 years ago, I thought it would be a good thing in my world to be a part of the government. While I served, my eyes were open to an entire new world of things. While on council, it was told to us many times that the council should not micromanage the day-to-day operations, but set policy. While this is true, when it comes a time that one should be able to step up and say, when your management is failing, the buck stops here. It comes to a point that our rescue department does not have adequate employees to staff a unit safely. While I'm not saying that what we have and who we have is not competent or capable, I am simply saying that it is not okay to have the very small staff, and I mean small number, of paramedics to respond to calls. It takes one time, one mistake, for something very tragic to happen. Take this for instance, as all of you can relate. John Smith from Philadelphia is driving down our interstate. He has a medical issue on and an accident occurs right before our exit. He loses control, crashing his car into another driver that is coming home from work, trying to get to their family. Since most of us work from Des Moines and we drive home, it could be any one of us. As a normal call would go, fire, rescue, police are all called out to the scene. The semi that Johnny was driving hit a guardrail and he flipped, blocking some lanes of the interstate, and now the DOT has shown up. Little do they know that the guy a mile back isn't paying attention and comes flying down the road and he hits somebody trying to assist. Can we trust that we have the people to care for all these things that could happen? What I'm getting at here is that if you have a medic that is so tired from running 5 days in a row or not having other staff to help adequately cover, that they can sleep right through those tones. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just simply saying that it's a risk that we should not be willing to take. What if it was your wife, your child, or your mom, or your dad that needs help? Can you guarantee that somebody will be there to assist? There comes a time when the council should say, this is not working, and there's been ample time to fix it, and there hasn't. Please take a minute to think about it. What if it was your family member? What if it was you that needed that help? Will you have that help? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure Christine is referring to me. I've told this council more than once that you should not micromanage the city employees. And that includes your city administrator. I just find it incredibly insulting that you question a proposal to spend $6,500. It's like when you question spending $3,000 on a program to map the cemetery. You've got to have some faith in your city employees. You spend more time on these little issues than an $8 million housing project. And I think you're going to have trouble recruiting new people, not just based on salary, but the level of respect that you show toward your faithful city employees. I applaud Jim Henderson too. You really have a gem here. I'm not trying to tell you guys how to do your job, because I think you do a really good job. You all obviously care about this city, but you need to have some faith in the people you've hired. They do a really good job, and you need to pay attention to them. And show them some respect. I mean, Ash gave you lots of reasons to hire this HR consultant. He didn't tell you he had to do it. In my book, if I were sitting on the city council, I'd say, you've got a budget. If it fits in your budget, go ahead and do it. I mean, I think he shows you tremendous respect bringing that proposal to you. He gave you half a dozen reasons, and the best one was right at the top, that you spent $16,000 on attorney fees, and any attorney will tell you an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You're going to save a lot of money if you address problems up front. And the fact that the employee handbooks haven't been updated is proof positive that you need some outside help. And I mean, it sounds like a really good investment to me. And then he had to say 3 times that he had respect for this firm, that he's familiar with this firm because they did the negotiation for the city utilities. And you guys didn't seem to believe Ash until Jim Henderson came up here and said that. I just don't understand that. I'm not trying to criticize you guys, because you have a tough job, and you know, everybody wants you to be careful with your tax dollars. But as Officer Irving pointed out, you know, our growth in tax base allows us to spread that cost out. You know, this housing project has succeeded better than my and Eric's wildest dreams. We weren't sure it was going to fly at all. So that's put us in a really good position. You know, we're a town of 2,000 now, we need to act like it. You know, 20 years ago, I served as city attorney for some really small towns, and they had to act as a committee of the whole. Because, you know, they had one part-time city employee and one part-time clerk. And so they did have to make all the decisions. But you guys don't have to do that. And I just encourage you to put a lot more faith in your department heads and your city employees, because you've got some good ones. Stuart's really in a good position, so and don't ruin a good thing, is what I'm trying to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Warren. And to go off of Warren's deal, like he mentioned, we had paid $16,000 on lawyer fees on some little squabble we had, and we've got a lot of things going on right now to lawyer fees. And I think an HR person would nip some of this ahead of time, so we wouldn't be going through this. I mean, I think we're gonna be shocked at the end of the year what our lawyer fees are gonna be. It used to be Bill Bump sat up here, and if we had a question, he could tell us right now, we haven't done that for a long time, and we kind of stumble, not having a lawyer right here have to refer stuff to Dwayne later on.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything?
No. Thank you.
I just have one.